Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing this is why being dumped is great. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing this is why being dumped is great. So if you have been dumped, you will feel anything but great. However, I believe being dumped can be the greatest gift. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 reasons why being dumped is great. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is growth potential is at its highest. So change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of making change. When we consider making change, when we consider moving forward, when we consider trying to become a version 2.0 of ourselves, we can be hit by a lack of motivation. We can be hit by a lack of confidence. We can feel that we're not good enough, we're not able to, and we don't have the time to improve ourselves every single day. We believe that we don't have the opportunity to live our life in a way where we become more skilled, more confident, more attractive, and all in all, a much better version of ourselves. We make excuses. We feel that it's not worth our energy. But when you've gone through a breakup, which is often what people say is the worst period of their life, you see things from a different perspective. And as a dumpee, you have an opportunity that if you'd stayed within the relationship, you wouldn't have had. And this is the opportunity to see things in a way where moving forward is actually easier than standing still. When you're feeling happy, it can feel very difficult to find that extra oomph, that extra get up and go to improve yourself. When you've gone through a breakup, you can be hit by a lack of motivation, but you will be getting to the stage where at some point you will realise that staying the same is no longer an option. Now maybe you got to this point a few weeks ago, maybe you'll get to this point today, maybe you won't get to this stage for a few months, but you will. You will come to the conclusion that staying the same is no longer an option. The pain of staying the same, the pain of thinking about your breakup 24/7, the pain of feeling that you can't get your ex back in your current position, the pain of feeling that even if you want to try to meet somebody new, you no longer have the confidence or the ability and skill set to feel that you can actually achieve this. When you get to this point, you will realise that the only way is up. The only way is to move forward. The only way is to set yourself goals and challenges. The only way is to do the things that when you were happy, you couldn't be bothered to do. But when you were happy, you didn't have the time to do. But when you were happy, you never felt the need to do, because now you do. Now things have changed. You're looking up rather than thinking, well, I don't know whether I'm looking up or down or here or there. I'm just kind of happy. I'm just going along and floating around my life. No, you're at rock bottom, and the only way to look is now up. And that can be the greatest gift. And this is why point number 1 about why being dumped is great is because you are in a position now where you can actually start to achieve things that were impossible to you. And they were only impossible to you because before you didn't have the desire to do it. You didn't have the fuel to do it. And yet when you've been dumped, you will get to the stage where you recognise all of these negative feelings you're experiencing can be combined together and transformed into fuel to push you to the next level. And this is something that can only happen through pain. It can only happen when you're going through the grind. It can only happen when you're suffering. You can't experience this when you're going through a time which feels kind of okay, kind of good, maybe even great on the outside. But the truth is, you were never reaching your potential. The truth is, you were not living your life to the full. The truth is, you were stagnating. And maybe this was initially the start of your decline to this point, but you will never make this mistake again, because how could you? You now suffer, you now feel the grind, you now understand that you can't stay the same. And this is why I think being dumped is great, because it gives you that potential for growth, which is at its highest when you are suffering. So you will get to that moment where the change has to be made because you can no longer accept being the same. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about this is why being dumped is great. And point number 2 is stronger foundations. So if you want to try to get your ex back, the aim has to be that if you get them back, it doesn't fall apart again in the future. And this is another reason why being dumped is great. Because you can look at things from a perspective that once again you didn't see from within the relationship. And this means that if and when you get your ex back, this will be a brand new relationship built on stronger foundations. It's built on stronger foundations because you would have learned from your mistakes, and hopefully your ex would have as well. You know, they weren't perfect. Even if they were the one who dumped you, it doesn't mean that you did everything wrong and they did everything right. Absolutely not. You must realize that unfortunately 2 people were no longer connecting correctly. And therefore, this is something that you both need to work on. And you can certainly do your side of the bargain by making sure the mistakes you made are not replicated in the future. So if you follow my hints, tips and advice to increase the chance of getting your ex back, or maybe you want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your specific unique situation. If you follow the advice, whether it's from my podcast or one-on-one via audio coaching, you will be increasing the chance of getting your ex back. And if you succeed in this goal, you will have built a stronger foundation for this new relationship to hopefully thrive. If speaking with me one-on-one sounds good, then please go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. But when we consider the stronger foundations, when we consider the new potential opportunities you have now after being dumped, we can see that not only can you become a version 2.0 of yourself to attract your ex in a stronger way than ever before, and not only can we recognize that you can try and work on the errors of your ways, the mistakes that you made, so that you are not bringing them to the table if and when you reconnect with your ex, but we can also see that you can be a guiding light for your ex. And the interesting thing is that most dumpers do not go through the growth that dumpees go through. And that connects to point number 1. You know, when you're happy, when you feel like you're kind of going through life okay, you're less likely to reach your full potential. You're less likely to push forward. You're less likely to take that leap of faith into trying something new, which may feel like it pulls on your self-consciousness. It might make you feel like you're really worried, nervous, anxious, but then you decide, you know what, I'm going to join that class group or club. You know what, I'm going to try to learn something new. And okay, this is something your expert dumper is probably unlikely to have done, whereas you would have done. And you can be the guiding light to not just help you continue to move forward, but to take your relationship forward in a way where your ex, or when you reconnect, your girlfriend or your boyfriend again, they can follow your example and improve every single day themselves. So in essence, this isn't just building stronger foundations because you are a better person and you're no longer making mistakes, but you will be leading by example with your former partner, now your girlfriend or boyfriend again, seeing what you're doing, following how you live your life without you even necessarily having to say something. They will see the differences. You know, that is why they want to reconnect with you. And you will be setting a passive aura within your relationship. You will be setting an example of how best to live a life, improve, grow, and stay motivated. And that self-motivation can be something which is taught just by people seeing and being inspired by you. And therefore, this is something which can just not only push you forward, but push your new relationship forward in general. And the stronger foundations will hopefully mean that if you get your ex back, you stay together for the long term. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about this is why being dumped is great. And point number 3 is reevaluate your past relationship. Now, looking at point number 2 from a different angle, we can actually reevaluate a past relationship before you reconnect. So in point number 2, I was speaking about building stronger foundations for if and when you and your ex reconnect. However, you may get to a stage where you think, I don't even want to do that. And as a dumpee, you might be listening to this and thinking, that's crazy. I will always want my ex back and I will do anything to get them back. But let me tell you, if you go through the growth that only a breakup will allow, you will get to the stage where you reevaluate your relationship and you'll think, okay, I was here and they was there. Maybe they was at a higher point in my mind. Maybe that's why the relationship ended. But I now know that I've grown substantially. I am a much better person today than I was back in the relationship. And I don't know whether I even want to reconnect with my ex anymore. I appreciate the fact that my attraction net is now much larger. A bigger attraction net is created by self-improvement. A bigger attraction net is created by increased confidence. When you attracted your ex, you were a version 1, and your attraction net was a certain size. You put it out to sea, and you caught your ex, and maybe a few other people in and around you had options with. But there would have been people that you were unable to connect with. Your attraction net did not reach that far at that time. But now you're a version 2.0, your attraction net is much larger. And when you cast it off now, you will see that there are people you can attract which are much more interesting, funny, attractive, inspiring. All of the things that you want and more that you couldn't attract previously are now obtainable for you. So you might think to yourself, I'm reevaluating my past relationship. And not only am I now looking and thinking I can attract somebody better than my ex, but when I think deeply about it, we weren't actually the best match. I thought when I was dumped, I really wanted my ex back, but after a longer period of time has passed, I'm now thinking this wasn't great. And there were a few things about my ex that really annoyed me. It wasn't all about me. They may have dumped me, but there are some things I didn't really like about them. And I don't really miss that element of them. And I don't really want that in a new relationship either. So if they haven't changed, why would I even want them back? You can only reevaluate your past relationship if it is a past relationship. You can't do this in the moment. This is something which is unable to happen unless the relationship has sadly ended. And then you have the opportunity to focus on what was good, what was bad, what you want in the future, and what you don't, as well as the fact of whether you can attract somebody who is a more rounded and better individual than your ex, than you attracted previously. So I believe that reevaluating your past relationship is certainly something which can only happen after being dumped, only happen after a breakup, only happen when you're at your lowest and you really reconsider everything. And this is another reason why I believe that being dumped is great, because it gives us that gift of being able to look at things from a different perspective. When you're in a relationship, you're in a box. You see everything from within. If you get dumped, you're now outside the box. You're looking from the outside, looking in, and you can really reevaluate not only your past relationship, but what you need to do to build stronger foundations in the future, and also enabling yourself to evolve, grow, and improve by exchanging the negative emotions as rocket fuel to propel yourself further forward into a growth spiral that you could never have dreamed of before. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.